What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to SasqWatchers. It's been a minute since we've talked paranormal, so this is going to be a fun episode with some cool guests and somebody that you all are familiar with from a historical episode back in the day. And we'll let our guests introduce themselves here in 40 seconds.
Woo!
John on the airwaves, seeking mysteries that can't be explained. SasqWatchers chasing shadows in the night. In the realm of the paranormal, they ignite. SasqWatchers podcast pioneers, unveiling the unknown with curious ears. From specters to Bigfoot, they dig deep. SasqWatchers on a quest that's unique.
You know, it's been long enough. I forgot how loud that was. So if you,
I was just muted, but I said it was the loudest intro in the entire biz.
Dude, I love that intro. That was amazing.
Thank you. I worked tirelessly on them.
The Ric Flair Sasquatch, bro. It hits home.
See, well, the woo thing, it just sells itself. You know, I'm just glad I'm the first person to think of it. So, like,
yeah, so far from what I've seen, man, that is a first for me. That's awesome.
Well, if anybody likes it as much as you do, we do have T-shirts with
Ric Flair Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah! I might have to cop one of those. Not gonna lie.
No, you don't want that.
No, okay.
Nah, it's not that great.
I have 3 of them. They're pretty awesome. And
hell yeah, bro.
Unlike all other podcasts out there, I keep our profit margin at 0 for the best prices for our fans.
Yeah.
So
Nice, man.
Yeah,
we don't make no money, nothing.
Nope, $0, no profit at all.
We're very, very poor.
But
that's also fair.
Anybody who listens already knows that because I never shut up about how broke and poor I am. But
True.
One thing I am super excited about is talking to you guys about paranormal stuff. And of course, Bob, you've been on the show before. And Cody, we've been kind of breaking the ice with you here for the last couple of minutes, but
sorry, Bob, that you had to go through it the first time.
No, it's fine. I'm used to it by now.
Okay.
Well, he's carried our show before.
It's good to be here. Good to be a part of the show as a whole. I'm excited.
Yeah, cool. We appreciate you guys coming on. Especially short notice. I think it was like 2 days ago. I texted Bob and was just kind of desperate to get a SasqWatchers going because it's been so long.
Well, yeah, always happy to oblige. I think I was one of your guys' like earliest guests on the show. And
you were.
It's been really, really cool to see where you guys have come just in this short amount of time. I mean, it's I use you guys a lot as exactly what to do if you want to stand out and do your own thing in the podcast world, because it's, you guys both know as well as I do, there's a million podcasts out there. You have to do your own thing. You have to be not only unique, but you have to be consistent. You guys put out some of the most consistent shows I've seen with the network. Everything you guys have just done over the last year has been incredible to watch. So kudos to you guys. Extremely proud of both you guys. It's been a joy to watch you guys rise to where you're at.
I appreciate that. That is nicer things than my wife would say.
It's nicer things than I would say.
Well, you need the bros, dude.
Well, yeah, I think last time we talked, I was still doing Tales from the Dark full time. Cody and I have a new podcast launching at the end of the month called the Ghost and Me podcast. Very excited about that. We've been kicking that around for like the better part of a year, and we're finally pulling the trigger. We've got I guess we can give you guys an exclusive. We have Alan Greenfield coming on to kick the show off in the weirdest way possible. If your listeners don't know Alan Greenfield, he is the author of The Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts. He is an occultist, a ufologist. He is the guy basically to have out there. I'm honored to have Cody joining me. Cody's over at Mystery Archives with 7,000 million subscribers out there, just being the media icon we all want to be.
I don't know if I would take it that far. I don't know. 7,000 million and one, but I mean, who's counting, right?
Yeah, who's counting? No, but it's been a blast to work with Cody, to know Cody over the last couple of years. Funnily enough, you mentioned having us on last minute. That's how Cody and my friendship literally came. We were gonna shoot a sequel to Phantom Farm. I reached out to Cody. I'm like, hey man, I know we've met once. We've talked for a total of 45 minutes. Do you want to fly from Kansas to Ohio, lock yourself in an infirmary overnight with us? Also, can you buy cultist cloaks? Don't ask questions. Bring your fiance. Sleep in my haunted studio. It's going to be a great time. And since then, we've gone on a ton of adventures. I'm still trying to get Cody's dog to have babies with my dog. He's got a beautiful giant husky. I've got a small little chihuahua. I just want to see the monstrosity that we could birth.
He wants
definitely
Chawuski
happen.
so bad, bro.
I can feel it in my brain. It's like it's like that primal urge. I'm 30, so I either need to like die in a foreign land in war, or I need to have Chawaskis. There's no in between.
That's
Like
facts,
if I'm not dying in like Eastern Europe on the war front, then what's the point?
Exactly. I feel like I'm past my expiration date on that one. Like I should have passed in a trench a while ago.
Hey, World War One, they were throwing like dudes in their 50s out there. Like,
oh, that's a valid point, though.
It's good. Like you're so. Hey, can you pull the trigger on this Mosin Nagant? Yeah, you're out.
Hop on in, brother.
Yeah,
but yeah, like I said, we've been doing a lot of cool stuff. It's been crazy also to watch Cody's growth over at Mystery Archives. I'll kind of let him explain what he does over there. It's pretty much an adult version of the Tales from the Dark YouTube channel. That's the best way I can describe it. Where I think my most recent video that came out tonight, I at one point I described the entire town as internet hysteria meets Zach Bagans' wet dream.
That was perfect, by the way. That is the perfect way to describe Helltown.
But yeah,
we're talking Helltown. That's like an hour west of Cleveland.
Yes. Yep.
That's right. Bob, Wait, where you're in Ohio, Bob? Where do you live again? Like just general area.
So I moved out of Ohio. I'm down in Missouri now, but I was was in the live chat of the premiere earlier, that video over on Tales from the Dark. I'm like, I used to swim in the Cuyahoga River. Like I know exactly where this location is. The entire point of the video was kind of we all four know how easy it is for stuff to get blown out of proportion here on the internet, and how quickly the stories of Helltown specifically got away from what was really happening over there. I mean, that the town doesn't exist anymore. But
there's like nothing there.
Yeah, but you go to TikTok and there's a guy who did like a 12-part series on TikTok that had legitimately hundreds of thousands of impressions, millions of views. And it's saying how these genetic freaks are still running around, the cultists are still out there, they're in the church, they're in the tunnels, telling this ridiculous story. And I'm like, okay, I know for a fact that you weren't there. I know you and your friends did not go and investigate. I will explain why. And again, it's not to attack this one creator, but it's something that I see way too often, that people are just, if they're unfamiliar, especially with a small rural area like Helltown, like Boston Mills, no one's going out there. To get there, it's very similar to the Centralia hike. Like you can accidentally get there, but holy hell, it's a trek. It's a hard thing to do. And so the point of my video was, well, let's go over what I've heard since I was a child. I grew up with the Shadowlands. I grew up old school ghost hunting. So of course I heard the Moonville Tunnel of Ohio, the Helltown, Ohio. I heard that my entire life. And so I kind of pulled from the memory vault some for the video, dove into what the internet's currently saying, because I had never heard of the genetic mutated freaks. And it's like, okay, well, this is clearly the Melonheads. You guys are confusing the Melonheads with Helltown. And it's one of the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to interject, say a year ago, almost exactly, Drew and I went to the Melonheads and we did an entire documentary about the Melonheads here in Ohio, in Kirtland.
Yeah, big fan. You guys sent me over the link, and I remember having this whole conversation with you guys when you guys were heading out that way. But that's the thing is there's this weird amalgamation that happens in the paranormal community where we have so many storytellers, and YouTube right now is so overrun with AI, especially in the parasphere, where things are now getting confused. And a great example of this is just earlier, Cody's fiance Megan and I were discussing the Fox sisters. If you guys are unfamiliar with the Fox sisters, we wouldn't have this show had it not been for the Fox sisters. The spiritualist movement, paranormal investigation, none of that would exist. Well, she looks it up on Google, and she's like, wasn't it like triplets that were communicating with an alien? That's what Google AI came up with. And again, the mass amount of the younger audience, they're going blind off the first thing that Google says. So if that's the misinformation that's going to be spread, it's going to be spread like wildfire. And unfortunately, that turns into a case like this where Helltown went from a spooky little location that no one really knew anything about to there's mutants, there's feral people, there's cultists in the church, in the woods, there's serial killers. It went out of just, out of control. And so that was the whole point of the video, was like, hey, here's all the stories. I'm going to give it to you with a grain of salt. It was supposed to be like a 7-minute video turned into a 25-minute video. I had to cut it down from 32 minutes, I think. And it's just, hey, this is why you can't believe everything you see on the internet. I'm going to present it as close to factual as you can, because the details are so muddy and murky. It's impossible to know what's actually going on in the first place.
I do have to oh, sorry, brother. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say, to be fair, if you guys remember the weird US.com, they had like a short TV stint. They did there is a portion of that they devoted to Helltown in Ohio, when parts of the buildings were still standing, like when there was the remains of the church and they still had like some of the excavating equipment out there, but there's like nothing there now. Like everything's gone.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to have to take responsibility because Helltown holds a special place in my heart and in my channel's history. It was actually, so I kind of overplayed. This is back when I used to overhype things a couple years ago, just trying to kind of, I guess, catch my groove. Obviously not having been to Ohio at that time, not being from Ohio natively, I went off of what I could find on the internet. And, I would argue that I over sensationalized my version of the story a good amount, but it was actually my first video for some reason, or rather to go viral. And it's kind of helped get me where I am today. So I very much appreciate Bob taking the time to actually go in and set the record straight. Because I'm over here like, I may have added to that misinfo inadvertently, but I did.
Yeah, well, admittedly, I didn't have to start the video saying like everything you've been told about Helltown is a fucking lie. Like I shouldn't have done that. That was something
you came out of the gate hard.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, dude. I love a good story. I love sensationalism to an extent, but I think it does get out of control quite often.
Yeah, I came out swinging.
No, that's okay too, because I over the I don't know, the year and a half, has it been that long already that we've been doing this? Doing this show, that's one of the things that has kind of pushed me kind of farther back or away or distanced me from the paranormal world, is all of the over sensationalism. And honestly, that was one thing that I've always kind of rallied against, and it's made some enemies for the show over a very short period of time. But I mean, we need to keep ourselves grounded to talk about this stuff,
Absolutely.
Yep. And also, if you go to Helltown right now, you're gonna get arrested by the Boston, Ohio Police Department, or the Summit County Sheriff's Department's gonna arrest you.
That's what stopped us from the documentary. We were gonna actually over the summer head out that way and do some guerrilla filming, and when we found out there's literally nothing standing there anymore, and it's very deputized.
It's basically just like it's a leveled off like area in the woods now. The old church, there was a church there one time, it's gone. Mm-hmm. There were like some houses that were like dilapidated, they're all gone.
I actually, when my video went viral, I had the owner of the church contact me and ask me to blur the image on my video, because as it was popping off, it was starting to get up over 1 million views. And granted, it's probably gone now. This is like 2+ years ago. But basically, they were having a lot of issues with people breaking into it and just with vandalism. And with that, the structural integrity of the building was really, really poor. So they didn't want they didn't want to face any sort of like a lawsuit or anything like that. So I obliged them on that. But I'm glad to hear it's probably gone now.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that almost from my own research, and I've not been there, but from what I've seen, everything is pretty much gone.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it in the video. I had some friends go out there to film last summer. They got permission to go out, but they got there and said there's nothing to film. There's nothing to look at, and that was kind of how I ended the video. Was this is the part that the articles and the videos fail to mention is you can happen there by accident. I mean, it's in the Cuyahoga National Park. It's very easy to get to for an above average hiker for sure. But there's no point in going because the thing that kind of pushed me to make the video was the gentleman over on TikTok. He ended up saying there's electric fences, there's armed sentinels, there's guards that you'll be shot on sight. And my friends were like, no, we literally called the sheriff's department. We got a film waiver. We paid the $35 to film in the park. And
Nice.
we spent 3 hours walking there to get there for nothing to be there. There was nothing to shoot. I think they camped overnight because they're like, we're already here. Why not?
Right.
But that was kind of the whole thing for me. It was like, okay, well, let's have that discussion because Drew, like you've seen with Tales from the Dark, I don't just tell the stories. I have to go see them. I mean, that's what's led me to Skinwalker Ranch, Mount Shasta, Somerset, Kentucky, Hellier. That's what's led me all over the country to go and run these stories down. And it's one of those things that I've really enjoyed over the years, but it's seeing it kind of come back in the way that it is right now, especially like I mentioned with AI. Because I'm pro AI. That's something that as a creator is kind of controversial, but it's one of those things that you either need to adapt and integrate or you're going to get lapped by it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you have to draw that line between having AI create your entire podcast or your entire YouTube channel. That to me is where it's too lazy, to be honest with you. And it's
100%.
not just lazy, but you end up inadvertently spreading misinformation and you're trading the entire background and backdrop of paranormal investigation that we've had to fight tooth and nail to get taken seriously for money.
And
One episode. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say on that note, like, let them, like as more and more people become faceless and are using AI to narrate things, people like us who are actually in the trenches are just going to become more special. Like we will be providing that sought after human visualization when everybody else is, typing with algorithms.
I mean, the good thing is Cody's got us all beat. Cody's got this deep, very monotone, and I say monotone in the best human way possible. This narrator voice that just comes out of nowhere, and when he slips into it, I'm like, hang on a second. It's like when you have a friend that can play guitar really well, and they're not in a band, and then they randomly pick up a guitar. You're like, holy crap, you're good at this. What happened? I don't understand what you're doing. When Cody slips into that mode, it's like, okay, this can't be replaced. There's a level that can't be replicated by AI, never will be. There's a level of emotion that comes with it. But then there's also one of the things that I hype Cody's channel up to everyone I talk to is there's a level of engagement, not only with the audience, but with the story. But when Cody tells a story, you can tell that this is not just, I went to the first website I could find and had something rewrite this for me. It comes from, I think the Bill Vance story is my absolute favorite example of this, where Cody put an episode out, Bill Vance contacted him, there was a corrected video put out, there was so many different levels and layers to the video. It's like, okay, I can respect this, as a creator that you went back, because a lot of creators, the ego won't allow you to go back and revisit something. It's okay, well, I don't care that you were upset or you thought I did this wrong or I misrepresented this. I don't care. I am the YouTuber, you are the subject matter. That's how this works. And I hate to say that, but that's the take that a lot of YouTube personalities have. And to see Cody not only take it in stride, but then say, okay, well, I'm going to kick it up a notch. I'm going to do my sequel that's going to be 5 times better than the original. And then I'm going to fix all of the mistakes and then show you as an audience the steps I'm willing to take to put out a good quality product. And you don't see that very often anymore. It's engagement, it's analytics, it's numbers. With Cody, it's content, it's the research, it's history, and then mystery. And that's a beautiful synopsis for me of Mystery Archives. And that's something that I've always kind of admired about his channel, even when we first met, before we became friends and we're doing projects together. It was very much like, at the very least, this guy is taking his time. The due diligence is there. Like, you can go to the channel, you can understand the topic by the end of it. You're not left with too much speculation. Sure, you have to leave some hooks, you have to leave some speculation. That's what we do as entertainers, let's be honest. But
Always. There's
a level to Cody's storytelling that's like, okay, I understand what the family went through. I understand why this was important. I understand all of this now. And that to me is something that if your listeners haven't gone to Mystery Archives, go check it out. You're missing out if you haven't taken the time to just watch one or two of the videos, especially his new stuff. It's just been hit after hit after hit. This whole, I'd say, last 6 months, you just kicked it up. So
Damn, man, I'm blushing. that was more than a glowing overview and introduction to what I do. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, I do my best, man. My favorite is, though, I get accused of being AI all the time, which is great. Even with my raspy voice on occasion. But yeah, no, I just I do my very best, man. I'm passionate about the paranormal. I'm passionate about storytelling, and I try to do it the way that I think it should be done, and make docuseries style content that people can wrap their heads around and kind of put themselves in the people's shoes who experience the phenomenon. And yeah, I think you might have said Bill Vance. It's Bill Vale. I just wanted to throw that out there just in case
I
anyone.
apologize. Yeah.
No, it's all good in case anyone wanted to look into his case. But yeah, he was actually a really down to earth guy. He reached out, and I can't talk. Sorry. Considering I based the original video off of his book, I messed up a few details. I mean, I'm human. We all do it from time to time. But I was more than happy to make that right. With his blessing and all the details that he could provide me to be able to do that for him. Because for him, it was like, I just want to get these, for example, one false narrative that's really been spun out of control, especially by some bigger YouTubers other than, myself, was that he worked for NASA. Turns out he was a quality assurance for a NASA subcontractor, but he actually wasn't an engineer at NASA, albeit he had worked in the engineering field. But that was like a big one. He wanted the truth pushed out there, as well as like some details on the case that a lot of people had just kind of parroted over the years. But yeah, man, I was really happy to be able to do that. And I never mind going back and correcting some details, especially if I got something wrong, because I want to tell the story how people present it. I want to get what they experienced out to the world as accurately as possible. And I do want to leave a certain degree of speculation, or a certain buffer to allow people to speculate. And I give my 2 cents as well, but ultimately it's up to people to decide what they believe.
No, for sure. And I also have to apologize to the audience. I did this cool thing. I do this every time I'm on the SasqWatchers podcast. I forget that I'm not the host of the show. So after several hundred episodes and probably 100 interviews, I do this cool thing where I forget that I'm not supposed to be on the forefront of the talking. So I do apologize to your audience for that. And then for the Bill Vance comment, I was just like watching The Office earlier, so I think Bob Vance from Vance Refrigeration. That's where my brain goes. So yeah, so
no, it's totally
to the audience
understandable.
there.
Yeah, man, I love when our guests talk because then our job's easy. I just
Hell
sit
yeah.
here and I listen and right on. But I did want to interject, not just because I could tell from my co-host's blank stare and unwillingness to admit he doesn't know who Bill Vale is. For those of us who might be unfamiliar with him, can you maybe give us a little bit of the backstory to what you guys are talking about? Yeah.
Sure, man. Yeah, no problem. So Bill Vale, he was an engineer. He worked for, again, NASA subcontractors and a few other companies. He went through divorce. He ended up moving back to his hometown, essentially down in Texas. I can't remember the name of the town off the top of my head. I'd have to go back. It's been a little bit since I've delved back into his story, like a good 6 months or so now. So it's a little hazy. But essentially, he was working for this water company, doing, I don't know if it was water tests and installing equipment or what have you, but he went out to a call, and he claims that there was some kind of an exorcism taking place at the home that he went to. And after that, because he had just purchased a new home in this, hometown or what have you, to be closer to his brother and all that good stuff. And basically, he started experiencing some really strange phenomena within his home. And man, it's a pretty wide range of phenomena, from shadow people to what he describes as imps, different types of demonic entities, all the way up to the Hat Man, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. He's got several books out now, which are a really entertaining read. I believe his latest is Let me pull it up here so I don't misquote it. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, all good.
Is Tactics of the Demonic by Bill Vale. And basically he delves into his whole story, and that's essentially what I based the first video off, and then corrected the details of the first video with his firsthand account and experiences in the second. Hopefully that's a rough rundown. It's a pretty extensive story, so that's why I'm like, man, and I haven't delved into it in a little bit, so I'm a little hazy, so I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. Now you can see on his face that he's over there with his thinking cap on and he's researching this. I'm gonna make a note of this because I've actually not heard of this. I'm gonna research this a little bit. We might be doing some SasqWatcher stuff on it as well.
For sure, man. I would highly recommend it. And Bill's a really down to earth guy. He doesn't do a lot of interviews or press, especially anymore. But if you guys were interested, I could try to put you guys in contact. But I would argue that, not to just selflessly plug here, but my video is probably the most accurate one that you'll find next to just the book itself.
Oh, cool. Wow, I'll have to check that out as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would love to interview him. That's my thing. I like to pretend I'm Art Bell. That's why this show
Dude,
exists.
I'm such a huge fan of Art Bell. I feel you 100%.
Literally just a couple of months ago, I'm not even kidding, what I thought was going to be a 10-minute conversation with Heather Wade, and we were talking for almost 2 hours, dude. And for whatever reason, we didn't get a show going. Like, we scheduled it and then I just never heard, and I was like, oh, is she waiting for me to reach out again? Or so but yeah,
it happens, man.
I know when she brought her show back, I'm not even sure if she's still doing it. That might be why I didn't hear back after our ridiculously long phone call. But yeah, I'm so inundated in that world. The producer of Coast to Coast, Tom, he has my number.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, this show itself started because I was trying to get a documentary about Art Bell in the works, and just through speaking with contacts that I've made, they said that Aaron, his ex, is not really willing to participate in anything like that. I'm not going to be able to get any footage. All of the audio, I talked to Tom. That's how I have his info. Can't remember the name of the company that owns it, but we could offer $10 million and they'd say no. It's just a policy that they don't license anything out. So
wow,
it pretty much his one son, his oldest son, said that he was cool if we did stuff, but he didn't want to participate. So it just,
man.
I was like, man, if this is just going to end up being like some YouTube video about him and not an actual documentary, then I'll just figure out how to move forward with something else. And a week or two later, we have SasqWatchers. So out of the failure of that project, we've launched something that's been very cool. But
hey, man, that's awesome that you were able to make it into a launching pad of sorts. And it's also incredible to see just because I'm sure we all have a variety of influences, but Art Bell's definitely been a major one for me, for sure. I've been listening to him. I believe I discovered him back in either 2016 or 2017. I had vaguely heard of him before, but I hadn't really delved into his content, and I was just absolutely blown away.
Okay.
I actually discovered him through a metal band. He was in some of you may or may not be familiar. It's a technical death metal band called The Faceless, and they have a record called Planetary Duality, and they have 2 instrumental pieces in that. And I believe it's in the first one. There's an Art Bell segment where the guy's talking about how the government knows that this giant cataclysm is coming, and yet they don't do anything to protect us, sort of a thing. It's a really interesting. I'd have to look up the specific interview, but I was like, man, that hit me, like gave me the shivers, all listening to it. So I was like, who is this guy? Looked into it, found Art Bell, and have been on the train ever since.
Yeah,
well,
he was,
I
had the chance to go to Grandview Cemetery out in Pahrump, Nevada, and visit his grave site, and that was probably like a nerd dream come true for me. I used
Oh,
to listen to
dude,
Art
I
Bell
can
doing
imagine.
like night security work, listening to Coast all night long, and had no idea that this would be what I'd be doing, 10 years later. Yeah,
It's
I
funny
don't.
you mentioned the listening to it overnight, like on your work shift, because I used to do the exact same thing when I was painting planes, man. From the time that I was prepping them to the time that I was painting them, I had Art Bell going for hours and hours, and I got through so many different shows. And there's so many gems in there, like the the woman who supposedly was in love with the Sasquatch, and then like you've
Yeah.
got more serious ones like Mel's Hole, and just so many different gems, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have I've had guests on this show just because I've listened to them on Coast or Midnight in the Desert.
Yeah.
I guess I was going to ask if you discovered him in around like 2015. That's when that show would have been like current still. Midnight in the Desert. If you've not heard any of that stuff, I
Mhm.
recommend it. That was a really solid follow up to Coast. I think it was better than his Sirius XM show.
Oh
By
yeah,
a
for
by a
sure.
large margin.
Yeah, I'm relatively familiar with it. I haven't delved into absolutely everything that he's done. I do know there was some sort of falling out between him and Coast to Coast, and then he just kind of split off and was trying to do his own thing, and obviously was still fairly successful in doing so. But I think I discovered him right around the time he passed away, actually. And then I was like, no, like I just discovered this massive treasure trove and just became this huge fan of Art Bell, and he just passed away. So yeah, I don't know. It was a weird time, I guess, to discover him, but I'm thankful nonetheless because he has been a huge influence on me for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's kind of always the point that I'm trying to make when I bring them up is that every one of us that does this in one fashion or another are just playing Art Bell. So I don't take anything too seriously. I don't mind the fact that I have this annoying Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh Yinzer accent that I can't stand when I hear, and I don't understand how anybody could listen to a show that I'm on. Uh,
I
just
don't think it sounds that bad, to be
no.
honest with you. But I'm just a
Uh,
goofy Midwesterner, so
Yeah, well, I guess that helps. Like my Pittsburgh accent doesn't sound as bad when you talk to people with stranger dialect from their local cultures. But
for
yeah,
sure, brother.
um, it's something like people they get. You see like big heads in this community so often, and especially on YouTube. The clown down in Texas or his buddy in Ohio. Those guys that like really think highly of themselves and are willing to ignore facts and evidence for their sensationalism. And it's it's like they don't even realize, like, dude, you guys are just ticking the boxes that hundreds of people have already ticked.
Yeah.
Like this, if this isn't done for research and for fun, then I see it as not only is it callous and hollow, but again, like the legend did it better. We're just all playing in his playground. It's a time waste to me to look at it in any other way. Like,
I get that for sure. I mean, I would have never imagined that I would have the opportunity to be blessed to do this full time and to get as far as I have and have written books and all that good stuff. Um, so to take yourself too seriously, I think is kind of ridiculous. And I think it's important not only to stay humble, but to try and get the facts as straight as you can. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a good story, but you got to interject the facts as well. And I think you can have a little bit of both. At least that's kind of what I try to present. Is I'll present maybe a semi sensationalized version of the story, how it's come across to me, and then I kind of am like, well, this is the facts that go behind it. Was it really this? Was it not? This is kind of what I think, but ultimately it's up to you to decide. And I don't know. That's how I try to do things. But yeah, I just don't think it's cool when people are overly egotistical. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
I don't try to walk around like I'm super duper special. Like Bob said, what is it? I have 1,000 billion subscribers and I'm a media icon. I think that's just a little ridiculous.
um, I'm okay with stories as long as they're not accompanied with a grift. And
Right.
once there's a grift, then I start to get angry at the
Mm.
person that's doing it, because I mean, again, to harken back to Coast and with Art, you know, he had fun on that show as often as he had serious conversations.
Oh,
There,
absolutely.
there were, you know, hired actors or friends of his that would call in and do silly stuff.
Mhm.
JC to this day is rumored to have been one, not our JC, but the JC from Coast to Coast fame. And you know, there's a big difference between, you know, like a silly call in on a talk radio show versus, you know, concocting an entire story to take advantage of somebody who wholeheartedly believes in everything paranormal. And
Right.
that's something that just exists so prevalently in this community, especially now. It's just a real bummer. And that's something that
It
I think
sucks, man.
Art wouldn't have been cool with. Like, he was very much for the people, and when somebody got out of hand, he would let them know about it. So I don't
Oh,
know.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I can just say again, when I say a mildly sensationalized version of the story, I try to just present it how I've come across it. But with that being said, you know, I don't believe every single little detail of every single case. You know what I mean? I really do think that these things, kind of heading back to Helltown here, do get overly sensationalized. And I think especially when they start picking up traction, you know, as in the stories themselves, things can tend to get out of control. And depending on who experienced said phenomena, if they ever experienced anything at all, you know, it kind of, it paints a different picture for me. You know, if they're just trying to make money or, you know, what have you, for the sake of making money is pretty hollow for sure. Again, I'm very blessed to do what I do, but I do think you have to be a realist. And at the end of the day, I really do genuinely believe in this phenomena, having had some experiences myself and been in the field for a little bit now. So you can, every once in a while, you can kind of suss someone out based on that when you're researching a case. But yeah, I wish people wouldn't do that for the sake of just making money, you know?
Yeah, but there's also the opposite side of people who are just skeptics for the sake of being skeptics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It goes both ways.
Yeah, the best example I can ever remember is I had a feud with another podcast when we put out Phantom Farm, where we put out Phantom Farm. There's some footsteps that were captured. I was, you know, in the room.
Mhm.
And what people don't understand about Phantom Farm specifically is, and Cody's got to see this firsthand. The two of us who filmed Phantom Farm are probably the biggest perfectionists you'll ever meet, and we are the most nonsense people when it comes to the paranormal. We are quick to judge every little thing and to like literally pick every detail out.
You will pick apart a clip or a sound bite or both for hours. I mean, man, some of the stuff even we've experienced that we've captured here and there, you know, like when we saw those really weird lights out on what was it, in Illinois at that state park on that
Yeah.
trail?
Yep.
That was what, like 3-4 months ago?
Yep.
Yeah, we were tearing those videos apart and yeah, no, I know you spend way more time on it than I did, dude.
Yeah. But we had this podcast. He said, yeah, they faked the footsteps, and I reached out and I said, hey, would love to come on your show. Let's discuss it.
Yeah.
It has to be a civil discussion because I don't argue with people. There's no ego in this for me because I'm hunting ghosts.
Right.
Like, if we can't accept that you can't have an ego when you're hunting a freaking ghost, maybe you need to take a step back and just review your entire like toxic masculine self in that instance. They of course would not have me on the show.
Of
And
course.
what I loved is they did a live event. They said, we're going to show you guys how easy this is to recreate. They ended their live 47 minutes in, and I'll never forget that. It was 47 minutes in because they said, okay, they must have put more money into the production, and then they cut the feed. And it's like, you guys, and I know how much this location costs, $650 for one night. You guys spent $650. You guys drove over 1,000 miles to attempt to debunk something that couldn't be debunked, because one thing that we did for our viewers for Phantom Farm is we made all of the raw footage available, because again, my mind instantly did not go to, I just captured what might be the single best clip of paranormal phenomenon of modern times, which, like, realistically, when you take it at face value, that's what it is. No one has showed me anything better. And again, it's not ego. It's, I spend hundreds of hours every year watching these clips, watching things, looking for what I consider to be the real deal. And in this
Having seen the
instance-
raw footage too, not to interrupt you there, Bob, but just for a split second, just give my 2 cents. Having seen the raw footage of what you're describing, even back, when we didn't know each other very well, when I did do the crazy thing and fly out to Ohio and all that, I had no real way of being able to debunk it, because if it was faked, it would have had to have been faked so ridiculously, like Hollywood levels of fakery. And I just don't buy into that. And just because you spend more money on a production, I love that notion as well, that you can just have a magic money cannon and shoot it at something and it just automatically gets better. Hilarious to me.
Yeah, I mean, Phantom Farm was shot with a shoestring budget. None of us at the time were making money from content. I think the podcast, maybe on a good month, pulled in $25 in ad revenue, and that was on a good month. We all saved for months for the equipment, because we wanted it to be shot well, which I think for our first, like, actual time out, it couldn't have been shot much better. We brought the cinematic angles in, we brought the drones in. We brought in, the best people I could find in a small rural community in Ohio to come shoot this with me. It ended up being, a childhood friend I played music with was the other guy. That was the camera operator. And when we kind of came together and it happened, what was funny is the sequel to Phantom Farm was going to be, I went as far as to say, the owners of the building are messing with us. That is the only explanation, is that because this has been proven a handful of different times. We go to Hill House, for example. There's a reason the owners are in the room, they are in the house with you when you are filming at Hill House. There's a reason for that, because they're in control of what's happening in the home. In this instance, we had every nook and cranny covered with cameras. There was no getting in or getting out of the building. It wasn't going to happen. And
it's such a large space too. You know what I mean? If for anyone, let alone like a historical society, to have rigged something up, it would have to be extremely elaborate.
Yeah,
Again, it would be like Hollywood levels of fakery, which I just don't buy.
But again, that's the lengths I went to. Was, okay, we're going to reshoot an entire sequel to try and catch them in the act, because my brain refused to accept that we caught what we caught on film. It doesn't work that way. I know Tyler Terry, the guy who helped me direct, and he edited the majority of it.
He's a perfectionist too, to an extreme level.
Yeah, I mean, he makes me seem tame.
Level. Yeah.
I mean, heck, we probably, on the second night, Cody's first introduction to a full film set, we shot the drive-in scene for over an hour, just us arriving on site and going inside before we even did the investigation.
And it was so cold, bro.
Oh,
it was so cold. I remember.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was freezing. But again, the whole point was, can we debunk this? And I do love that the other podcasts, they apologized in private. They took all the stuff down and they said, hey, we don't believe you still, but we're not going to argue this with you. I was like, it's wild, because for an argument to take place, there has to be two parts, and I'm not arguing back. I simply asked, would you like me to come on and have the discussion with you? The answer was no. Okay, then we're not going to fight. I'm not going to fight with you. I have too much other stuff going on. I have an actual job outside of this. I don't make a living picking fights with other creatives. It's just not really my bag. But again, like I said, that you have to have that. You have to walk that tightrope of, it's okay to be extremely cautious to believe what's presented to you, but you can't do it to such an extreme that nothing can be real. And that's the problem. And you see this a lot more in conspiracy circles than you do in the paranormal realm, where not everything's a conspiracy, but anyone with a brain can say that the JFK assassination the math doesn't really math. That's my approach. Now, am I saying the shots couldn't have happened? No. people who say that it's impossible to make those shots, you've never seen a 19-year-old U.S. Army soldier nicked up on 17 Zen pouches at 3:00 in the afternoon. Like, trust me, it can be, just because you can't do it doesn't mean that no one can do it.
Right.
But there are aspects of the story that don't make sense, and that's okay. But to say definitively black and white, it had to have happened this way, this is the only way it makes sense, well, now you're being ridiculous. And so you have to have that level of I can meet you in the middle on some things, but not all things. But there are some clips, like Cody said, that are just, I'm going to call them out every time. If I can recreate them with zero real, I have no training when it comes to video editing, when it comes to 3D modeling. If I can recreate them with 30 minutes of a YouTube tutorial, I'm not going to believe it right away. And that's just,
Right.
but again, I think that's healthy skepticism. It's, you have to be open to it. But then, we end up in a haunted Airbnb that we shouldn't have been in Kentucky, where it's like,
Oh
well,
my
well, how
God.
does that happen? The Airbnb is now off of Airbnb. The woman left me a scathing review.
Which we
but-
just saw not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that, like, when the weird stuff does happen, it just happens. And it's something that I try to always remind my audience of when things seem to revolve around people. My counter to the person's making them up is, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. And there's what's that saying? If you gaze long enough at the abyss, you shouldn't be surprised when the abyss stares back at you. Well,
Right.
when your entire after work life is chasing the unknown, you shouldn't be shocked when every now and then you find it. And that's kind of where my brain goes as well. Because some people, I don't believe that anyone's haunted. I think that's a crazy thing. The same way that I don't believe that demons exist. That's not my bag. I think if you were a jerk in real life, you're probably not a nice guy when you die. That's my approach with demonology as a whole, and I get a lot of flack for that.
Definitely
But,
fair.
that's my opinion. But that's kind of my whole thing is you have to be careful in your approach with this stuff, but you can't leave the fun out of it, and that's the thing that too many people are missing. They're taking this as if this is the end all be all. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm so glad that, like, we're discussing UAPs in Congress. We've been doing that since the 70s. This is not a new thing. People just don't know the history of ufology, and that's okay.
Right.
But on the flip side of things, this is not all real life. Like, we still have jobs, we still have mortgages that need paid. Like, it's not the end all be all, and it's okay to just have some fun sometimes and just maybe take something at face value.
Yeah,
for sure.
dude, on that note, I went to the doctor today, and of course I had this shirt on with, the UFO and Sasquatch and a Nessie and everything. And, like, I lay down so that I can, do, like, doctor things. And the doctor goes, I just noticed your shirt. Yeah, you actually believe in that stuff? And I just didn't want to get into it in the middle of having this doctor's appointment, but it just kind of blew me away that you can't even wear a shirt without somebody having an opinion on it at that point. And
Just swing on him, dude. No, I'm just
what kind of blows me away is, at least out here, like, Sasquatch is kind of a mascot. It's everywhere. That's one of the things that kind of inspired me to move forward with the show and naming it SasqWatchers and having Bigfoot as our guy that's everywhere. Is because in my area, man, every car that passes you has a Bigfoot sticker on the back, and believe stickers, and it just kind of blows my mind that even just wearing a shirt, you see that skepticism in a human to the point where they have to address it in the middle of checking your heartbeat.
That's a little rough on that end, not gonna lie. I did again want to just quickly interject here, but when it comes to the Airbnb that we stayed at, I just want to clarify that we were not looking for it. Was not listed as haunted. We were not looking for it to be haunted. We were actually down in Kentucky, like going into caves, like doing like spelunking basically, or spelunking, however you say it. And it just so happened to be like literally the most haunted, like craziest stuff I've actually ever seen in person, next to like one or two experiences I had when I was quite a bit younger. And there were four of us that experienced things simultaneously. I don't know what happened, Bob.
I went to bed. I was fine.
You went to bed early in the morning, my friend.
Yeah.
But yes, you did, which was insane to me.
Yeah, so basically, like Cody said, we went out, we did some UFO hunting. We maybe were trying to contact an old god in a cave. We don't need to discuss that, the specifics here.
That's fair.
What we do in caves is between me and Pan. But we come back to the Airbnb. What we had checked in earlier, everything was fine. And and let me preface when I say it's fine, we like roll up on a Confederate burial mound, which was just insane.
It also was not listed at all.
No.
I mean, it was cool to be able to, because I'd never been to like any sort of a Civil War battlefield or graveyard or anything like that. And I love history. So I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And it was just a complete side note, but you would think it would be listed as like nearby attractions or something.
It was conveniently left out. Especially when we found out the property line extended onto the battlefield. It's like, oh, okay, you would think you would put that somewhere in the description. Right. I think it was like described as like a homey experience in rural tranquility. I'm like,
great for families and kids.
Yeah, that was
my favorite.
Yeah, great for families and kids. And it didn't have many reviews, but it was like relatively cheap. It was enough bedrooms. Like this is perfect for just a night or two. Like
yeah, whenever. And the house itself was fairly nice. You know what I mean? It was a little older, but like it would have been fine to sleep in, assuming I wasn't being harassed by stuff.
Yeah.
But that did not end up being the case at all.
Yeah, because and basically the craziness started as soon as we got there. And what's funny is like you would think, like I have a filming background. Cody's a YouTuber by profession. At no point in time we were like, let's film this. I don't know why we didn't think to like, hey, maybe we should probably create content around this, because our brains just and to me that solidified that it was a legitimate thing, because at this point,
and we also didn't know each other super well at that time. I mean, we had known each other for a little bit, but I think that was like our first or maybe our second real time like hanging out for like multiple days at a time. So I was like, unless this dude is like the greatest magician of all time, like there's no way, because like and I'll let Bob get more or less into it. I feel like he could explain it a little better than I can, but as things started to happen in real time with just me and Bob together, like basically back, like not back to back per se, but one of us following the other, you really start to question your sanity at that point. And it's like, I don't know this guy very well, but I feel like he A, wouldn't be able to fake this, and B, wouldn't do that to me even if he could. You know what I mean?
We definitely had like the Spider-Man meme of them pointing at one another. That
100%
happened with all four of us in the house.
100%, dude.
Yeah, because there's a time I pulled my partner aside at the time. I'm like, hey, like, do you think they're messing with us right now? And she's like, no, there's no way, because like this happened to Cody, this happened to you, this happened to Megan. There's no way that we're all four in on this against each other, and no one is catching the other person.
Well, and then we're all four in the same room at multiple times, and shit is still happening around us. You know, it's not, I don't know. It was insane.
Well, to me, there was one moment where I saw reality set in for Cody, and I'll start at the beginning here in a moment. But there was one point where I saw the look on Cody's face change of, okay, there's no way that this is the other person, when he saw something outside of the window when we were in the living room together. He's like, dude, I swear I just saw this. I saw the color drain from his face. I'm like, okay, I fully believe you. But to kind of start at the beginning, we get back to the Airbnb. Like the sliding door was open. So I tell everyone, like, hey, stay in the car. I'm going to message the host and just see at any point in time, did she maybe come back? Because if we had dropped our stuff off, went out caving. So in my mind, I'm like, maybe she came back, she forgot something, whatever.
Right. Or had a caretaker or something for some reason or another. That's a logical place to go, in my opinion.
Yeah. But then there's also the part of my head that's like, okay, we're in a rural area. Like we are in, pretty deep. We're not in deep Appalachia, but we are in a location that is surrounded by alleged cult activity, crooked cops, you name it. Somerset's got it all.
Right. And we're not from there. I'm sure we had out of state tags, sort of a thing. My brain went there too. So I feel you.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, is this the locals hazing us? Cause maybe they don't like Airbnbs. Again, you go to safety. Of course you do. Mm-hmm. So me and Cody kind of clear the house, and I go into the room that my partner and I were staying in, and I open the bathroom door, and I tell Cody, I'm like, hey, come here real quick. Okay, don't tell the girls. I don't want anyone to panic, but like the mirror is off the wall on the ground facing straight up.
And it was
Now,
like a large oval mirror, and where it was positioned, if it fell, I'm talking like it would have to be like a 1 in a million chance that it would land where it was, face up, not broken. So that was already
Yeah.
like, I'm like, that's insane. Like either he moved that beforehand and I just didn't realize it, or this is something really weird is going on.
yeah, so the night sort of progresses, and there were like several like nativity statues. One was Jesus. You know, we have this. We of course had to make a joke out of breakdancing Jesus because that was
Yeah.
just the go to, because this statue, Cody and I would be in one room together. The girls are outside. We would literally, nut to butt, for lack of a better term here, be walking on top of one another. We would go into another room, and the statue that we just moved back or just saw on one end table is now on the bed. And it's like, okay, well,
Or it'd be rotated in a different position, but it went from like this little nightstand either in different positions to on the bed to on the dresser,
to
like
different
just
rooms. Yeah.
insane, to different rooms. The little, so on the dresser itself too, they had like these little glass leaflets. I don't know how else to describe them. I think they were just like decor or something. Those ended up in other rooms. One of them actually was in the room that me and my partner were supposed to sleep in. On the side that I would have slept on, there was one that was on top of my pillow, and that was the first time I'm pretty sure I went into that room when we were clearing the house. So I'm already like, this, there's no way, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
go continue, Bob.
no, we're attempting to clear the house. We're making, again, at this point, like there's a lack of trust, and it's building. And again, that's just gonna happen. You're gonna have that in an experienced paranormal group, let alone, people that you've never really spent, too much time with. I apologize. And things just keep getting weirder. We start to hear noises. And so we're like calling out to the girls, hey, are you guys moving in this room? No, we're outside. Okay, well, we're definitely hearing stuff moving around like in the kitchen. What is, we know we're hearing this. We would go back out, the sliding glass doors open again. So then I go into, okay, well, let me try and debunk what I can debunk. Maybe there's a broken slider, maybe there's a weight, maybe there's, the frame is warped. Of course, none of the above are true.
Right.
And at one point, Cody's outside with, and my partner's outside, and they see something. Like Cody, do you remember what you said? It was like, was it a shadow? It was a shape? It was something that you guys saw over by the garage.
Yeah, so they had like this oh man, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It was like a garage or like a shed, like an external garage, I guess would be a good way to put it. And me and his partner at the time, we actually saw it at the same time. It was a large, like, I'm talking like 6.5, 7 foot tall, dark, like what looked like the shadow of a person right over by it. And it was over kind of looking past the edge. I don't remember specifically what we were doing. Bob was checking the house, I think, and I was outside, and then Brittany was kind of off over to the side here. And we saw it at the same time. And we both went opposite ways around this garage to catch, because we thought people were messing with us, to catch whoever we thought it was going to be. And where the garage was at, there was one field, which was part of the battlefield. And then there was another section of fence, which went off into another field. So unless this was the fastest person, ever, we would see them run off into a field or dip out because there wasn't really anywhere to hide. Well, we met each other. We didn't, whatever was there wasn't there, but we both saw it at the same exact time and had the same reaction to like, go and get this person. And there was no one there.
Yeah.
That was one of the scariest moments. I'm not going to lie. That was scary.
Yeah. Well, and I think at this time, I want to say I was in the house with a firearm, like clearing it out. Cause I was convinced.
I think, yeah. I think you were.
Yeah. Cause I vaguely remember telling you guys, hey, stay outside. I don't want to accidentally shoot somebody. Like, cause I do have previous military and law enforcement experience. Like I'm just going to clear the house. Like I'm going to 100% be positive that there's no one hiding in this house. And if there is, like, I hope they're ready to meet Jesus. They had it's a rough way to bring in the new year, but that's what's going to happen to them.
100%.
I clear the entire house. No one's there. I come outside to just chaos of, hey, there's shadow people. There's someone watching us. What's going on? So Cody and I end up like going in the backyard. We're hearing things out in the field. We're seeing things that just aren't actually there. And Drew, I think we've talked about this on the show. I'm a magic practitioner myself. My partner, well more versed than I was at the time. We're like screw it, we're going to do a banishing at this point. Well, before we can kind of get to that point, Cody, you can tell them about the window, because that's when my heart dropped with the window when we went outside and we both discovered at the same time what you saw was not even humanly possible. There
It
was
wasn't.
no way, unless this person was 20 feet tall, that what we saw or what you saw actually happened.
Right. Basically, and again, I think just for the sake of how scary it was, I've probably hazed out a little bit of the memories. But what I do remember is coming back in, and all four of us were in the living room area per se. I was kind of like the kitchen and the living room were kind of just one big room, essentially. And looking past the table in the kitchen area as we were coming back in, and everyone else was starting to sit down, I see, and I know this is going to sound insane, and I promise you I am mentally stable when when I say this, but on the window itself, which was above the sink, I saw basically a like a pale looking hand that tapped on the window. And I was like, that's when I knew for sure something was going on. I mean, granted, I was still well believing that something was happening, but at that point, that's when Bob saw my face change. And I remember we ran outside, and there's nowhere to hide around there. It was a big open space. There's no one, of course. And what's even scarier is where that window is. There was a stairwell that went down to like a basement area that, unless this person either had a ladder and was able to move it in a matter of, I don't know, 30 seconds, 40 seconds by the time I saw it, we ran outside, or they were 15 plus feet tall, there's no physical way, there's no physical way that someone could have climbed up and messed with us. And no, that night changed my life for sure. like I said, I grew up and I had a few experiences already, I already believe, but that was something else. That was more like aggressive, real time stuff is happening, one thing after another set of experiences. It was something else.
Yeah, it like Cody said, it was constant activity, and it was, what was odd is it was changing. Initially, you had kind of the trickster vibe, which I kind of alluded to Pan earlier. That Pan had a very large inspiration with the trip. That's the best way I can put it without kind of getting too personal.
Right.
And for those your listeners who might not be familiar with Pan is attached to the trickster element. And again, you hear this trickster vibe. And next time we're on the show, asking about the hitchhiker phenomenon. That's my new favorite thing that I'm diving into. But Pan is attached to the trickster. And so I'm like, this is kind of funny, like given the circumstance that we're having these like weird, at this point, again, harmless is where my brain went initially. There's stuff moving around. It's harmless. Okay. Well, then we're seeing shadows. Cody sees this hand, and I do remember trying to reach the window, and I'm 6'5". I couldn't even get my fingertips to the window. So I'm like, now I can gauge roughly how tall this being would have, I say being, but this hand would have had to have been.
Whatever it was,
what I mean? So I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And so my partner,
and you guys heard the tapping as well.
Yeah,
I saw the hand, but we all heard the tapping simultaneously, just to clarify.
Yeah. It wasn't just Cody
like, what was that? And I'm like, we need to go outside right now.
Yeah. So we kind of end up doing like a lesser banishing ritual, for lack of a better term here. Not the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, which is what most magic practitioners are familiar with, but just hey, you're welcome to stay at your house. We understand, but stay in the freaking basement. Like that was kind of the deal that we made with this entity. And I sound so insane saying that out loud, but that's basically, that's what happened.
Right.
So we go to sleep, my partner and I are like, well, we're going to sleep. Because at this point, we kind of touched on this, I think, on my first appearance. We brought so much stuff home to our house in Ohio. I mean, it was, Cody can tell you stories about the haunted studio that I made him sleep in when he first came to visit us in Ohio.
Didn't tell us it was haunted either. Didn't tell us any of this shit beforehand. Just FYI, he just guinea pigged us.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
the
thing is, like, Cody's like, they're sleeping in a room on an air mattress in the studio in Ohio. And it's like, in all four corners, there's like tea light candles from a previous ritual. We've done remote viewing experiments. We have like rocks we brought back from Area 51. Like the room had
someone who wasn't really versed at that time. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was like collector's items or what have you.
Yeah, they're just like little Pokemon, like catch them all, right?
Exactly.
There were definitely Pokemon in the room. Like I still to this day collect.
There's probably for sure like Pokemon plushies from what I can remember.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so kind of back to the house, we go to bed, And I remember getting
and
a
again,
text.
I don't know how the hell you guys went to bed, because I swear on everything, whatever this thing was is banging on the floor in the basement, like upwards, and is outside banging on the wall, and it's moving with me. And I'm exhausted at this point. I mean, we had been up like, God, I want to say like 24 plus hours at that point, getting close to,
Yeah.
and like we were exhausted.
Yeah,
And you're
well,
like, all right, well, this is, we're used to all this weird stuff, so we're just going to go ahead and go to bed. And I was like, bro, there's no way.
yeah, well,
There's no way.
I also do this cool thing with my friends where I forget that other people sleep. I don't sleep very well. Like I'm used to, I mean, heck, almost every time I've ever gone to Kansas, I just like leave in the middle of the night to just drive back. I just, that's,
Crazy.
I drive a lot for my job. I don't sleep. I've never slept very well. So like I'm used to 3-4 hours of sleep a night, and I'm fine. So, I kind of forget that people can't just like fly in from Kansas or drive in from Kansas, then drive to Kentucky all in one. And I'm like, oh, this is fine. This is just a day. Like we can
It's like
do this.
it's
no
like
problem.
14, 15 hours, bro. If we're talking
Yeah.
about like to where you live from where I live and then Somerset,
Yeah.
it's like
No,
it's like 15 hours.
it's fine. You guys did fine. There's a reason I always drive us, but yes, I mean that whole thing happened, and Cody's text me like, "Hey, dude, there's something banging on the basement." I'm just like, "It's probably fine. Just leave it alone. Like it's
Well,
okay."
so I was sitting on the couch. Megan was trying, my partner was trying to doze off on the other couch, and I was trying to doze off on the one couch facing the back wall, and then it's banging like behind my head. So like every time I start to doze off, it starts banging on the wall. So I'm like, okay, I'll just lay on the floor. I laid on the floor. It's banging underneath me, and I'm like, bro, I was like, A, this is terrifying. B, I can't sleep here. Like there's no way. And you guys are insane for sleeping here, for one. Like any rational person would have ran away already. But like this is already crazy enough. And I remember I just said like, well, we had tried to call the sheriff out there because when we
Yeah.
thought that people were messing with us, but it was such like a small remote area that they had no sheriff on duty. Like wherever it was like counties away.
Yeah, they were like, "Well, you can call 911 and someone will be there in a couple hours." I was like,
Yeah,
"What?"
we're like, what?
like that's not what I want to hear at all right now. But sure, fine. Yeah,
I remember I just harassed you guys to the point to where I was like, look, I'll eat the cost, but let's get another Airbnb and try and check in early because I gotta sleep, bro. And this is not it.
yeah, I've got a bad habit. There's what's funny is there's an unofficial rule to not let me pick Airbnbs, and yet I still always pick them when we travel. The last
Yeah,
one
that
was
needs to
fine.
not be the last one we kind of co-picked and it was chill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, it was kind of weird, but like decor wise, but it was cool.
Yeah,
It was
a cool,
nothing
cool.
spooky going on.
Yeah, it was a cool little tiny home that we stayed in last time.
They had stuffed turkeys on the walls, which whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah, there seems to be and the thing is I don't know if I just don't notice it or if it's because I do subscribe to the idea of paranormal negatives where it's like you chase it so much it's like we're gonna purposely not show themselves to this guy. It's like 'cause I know, I mean, we had I showed you guys a clip the first time I was on the show of the alleged Bigfoot encounter or whatever that was in the woods. I've never to this day seen another one, and it's because now I'm looking for them. And that day I wasn't looking. I had no interest in finding any. I was literally we were doing a video to debunk Randonautica, and okay, well here's this thing bigger than me, moving faster than anything deserves to move. Like that doesn't make any sense. No one can justify that for me. And I've shown it to hunters. I've shown it to everybody, and it's always, oh, it's a deer. I'm like, and that deer stood upright and ran and was pumping its arms and legs. You show me a deer that can do that, I will buy it from you.
well, and you're a giant dude as well. You know what I mean? Like for it to be larger than you, that's not a deer, bro.
No, see,
Even if it was a bear, bears aren't running like that.
I make the joke all the time that when I see someone bigger than me, I'm afraid because I think they're going to die soon. Like that, and when I'm out in the woods, if I see something bigger than me in the woods, I'm like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah, I'm in danger now.
Yeah, but I mean, heck, the house we live in now, I inadvertently moved us into a.
This is also why you shouldn't pick places you live either.
Yeah,
You just shouldn't pick places in general, my guy.
Yeah, so I can't. The problem is I did not know where we moved in Missouri was historically significant, so I can't give the details of where I live in Missouri.
Right, I see he doxing himself, but
yeah, which I've accidentally done. That's been a whole other conversation.
Oh
But
God.
there was a UFO, a very, very, very popular UFO incident that happened that was connected to my house. I live in a debunked. Okay, I can't say what I live in, but it's not a normal house. It was not designed to be a house. That much I can say.
Okay.
Or defunct, not debunked. I apologize, but it's attached to this UFO thing. So I'm like, oh, crazy synchronicity. Love that for me. And then, like a few months into having the lease, I was like, man, there's a room above the house that I can't get to.
Mhm.
But when you
It's like
walk,
it's like sealed off.
yeah, but when you walk like behind my house, there's a small hill, and you can see like it's definitely a room. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
what's going on? And we went to a another historically significant location in town. I can't give the name again because it'll give away where I live.
Right.
And I was talking to this historical society. They're like, "Oh, you don't live there, do you?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah. Why? Oh, did you know about the 17 dead bodies that were kept above your house for like 2 weeks when the barge crashed?" And I
Oh
was like,
man.
hang on, what now? Like, oh yeah, the hospitals overran. A barge crashed on the Mississippi, and the fire department just like pulled the bodies from the river and just put them in the room above, like where your bedrooms are. I was like, oh no, didn't know that. That's wild.
Yeah.
Love
So
that
so meanwhile,
information.
when we've been visiting and we had already had some weird stuff happen there. This is before we knew any of this. It just so happened to be where bodies were stored, which you're like, okay, I guess, right? This is just my life now. Thanks,
Yeah.
Bob.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to talk about the shadow that you guys saw. Because well, like your partner stayed with me for a little while,
Mhm.
and she can sleep through.
Anything.
This is not an exaggeration. I was trimming a tree in like in my driveway. I accidentally over trimmed because I'm not good at tree trimming, as I found out. You can't just like buy a chainsaw and just know how to do that. I cut way too big of a branch off. It fell like on the roof right above her house. I think it damaged some of my shingles. I run inside like, oh crap, she's gonna be freaking out. And she slept right through it. I'm like, an entire tree just fell right above your head and you somehow slept through it.
Dude, Meg could sleep through anything, I
Yeah.
swear.
But
She has slept through earthquakes, tornado sirens, you know, I don't know, the trees falling and hitting right above where she's sleeping. She sleeps like a brick.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, but
Um,
what's funny is she's like, half a foot tall. You would not expect this woman to be like fearless in the face of this stuff. She's just accepted it. And one night, I think I was going to the bathroom. Cody comes, I was like, "Hey, I just saw this in the room. I can't remember if it was a shadow. You saw something, and you guys are both like,
well,
no." And Meg's like, "No, it's really cool that this happened." I'm like, we need to get you checked out because
yeah,
you
yeah.
have like initially,
She's a little too eager. Her instincts is her survival instincts are a little skewed, in my opinion.
yeah, what's
Um,
funny is she doesn't even come from a paranormal background, and she just
Not
like
at all.
she jumped head first, all in. Let's find the demons. Let's invite them home. Let's cook them some supper. Let's just let's see what their life is about, basically.
I think she has reeled it in a little bit, maybe because of my harping, but yeah, it was a pretty intense problem there for a little bit as far as her, cuz like I could be there like sweating profusely. I'm terrified and like I am relatively desensitized to a lot of this stuff, by this point and also definitely now. And she's like, "I think that it was a great experience." And I'm like, "Nah, dude. Like whatever I just dealt with was not okay at all."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah, no, it's great."
And now, do you remember what was it a cat shadow or what? Am I misremembering something about a cat that you guys saw, or what
No,
did you
no,
guys see
no.
in the room?
Yeah, so you're not misremembering. So we saw it at the same time, which was even weirder, and that's also kind of what makes it valid in my brain. So we're sleeping in the basically Bob's spare guest bedroom.
Okay.
They have what's called the gamer bed, which is basically just like a spare bed that has like this. It's got like an LED backlit headboard, which I'm not a huge fan of, but Meg sleeps really well to it. So we all make sacrifices in relationships. Well, it cast a shadow out towards where the door was, and basically there's walls here and the door's right in the middle, and then you've got the ceiling there. And we happened to be laying down together and just looking the same direction, getting ready to kind of just settle down and go to bed. And Meg described it as moving more or less cat-like, but from what I can remember is there was a shadow that went from this wall, across the door to the other wall, and then it like zipped back really, really fast. And to me, it looked more person-like, but it definitely was
Right on.
a long, slender shadow type being that we saw. And it happened so fast that I remember I was just like, did we just see that like at the same time? Like, tell me you saw that. And where it was too, there are 2 windows in the back, but they were completely closed off with blackout blinds. So that's how I know that there was no like car shadow, nothing like that. So whatever it was, I don't know exactly what it was, but we saw it at the exact same time. And some other weird stuff has happened as well. And that not only like in that guest bedroom, but just in the house in general, like the knocking on the doors, because where the bedrooms are, like where Bob would sleep would be like literally all the way across the house. And we're on the other side in the guest bedroom. And like random times, like let's say like 4 in the afternoon, and let's say we slept in super late or whatever, depending on what we did the night before, um, something would just bang, like bang, like wake up, bang on the door. And then I'd go, like, I'd like throw, like pants on, whatever, go answer the door and no one's there. And it's like, I would hear Bob, coming or what have you, like he's a big dude, nothing. And that's happened multiple times to both of us. And I remember we've texted each other being like, did you just bang on the door at like 2 in the morning for no reason? And you're like, no. Well, you're like, why would I do that? And the
Yeah.
last time it wasn't even a bang. It was that little metal cauldron thing that
Oh
was on
yeah.
top of your
Yeah.
fridge was in front of the door. So I'm like half awake and I'm like, what the hell? And I remember I was going to the bathroom and I moved it. Like I tried to open the door and there was resistance. I pushed it a little bit, and then there was this little, it's got some weight to it. I think it's straight up iron, but it's like a
Yeah. It's
little,
cast iron. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a little, like you burn incense in it. It's like a little ritual thing. And it was on top of the fridge. I didn't even know where it had been, but I was like, did you guys for some reason like put this in front of the door? And you were like, no, why would we do that? I'm like, well, someone did. You know what I mean? Like just it's stuff like that, little things that just don't make a lot of sense that I don't know, man. They add up for me.
Yeah, well, and to kind of like justify the, Cody can hear me coming. Like I have concrete floors in my house. Like
Mhm.
I wear flip flops to walk around my house because it's just your feet get freaking filth. Like right now,
Oh,
literally
and
my
they get
Harley,
cold. They get cold, bro.
like, my Harley is in my living room right now. Like that's not an exaggeration. My Harley is literally in my living room right
It
now.
is.
So
It
like
is.
you can hear me just old man clocking around the house the whole like everywhere I walk.
Yeah.
So it's like you would hear me, but it'd be so I'd be like. I mean, there'd be times where like I'm not even in the house. I'm outside or I'm going to work, and I'm gonna tell you, hey, did you just knock on my door? I'm like, no. I can guarantee no one just knocked on your. What are you talking about? Are you sure you weren't asleep?
Or when
Um,
we all left that one time, except for Meg, who stayed back to sleep. And I remember she either texted our group chat or texted me and was like, hey, did one of you guys just bang on the door? And it's like, we're not even there right now, bro.
yeah. Well, and what's hilarious is it doesn't seem to happen. I mean, now I've had some things happen when, like, when you guys aren't here, but apart, like, it doesn't seem to happen when you guys, aren't here. Because I've slept in that room many a nights, and it's just,
There was no banging or anything
yeah,
like that
yeah,
ever.
never have any issues. Now I've had
Weird.
some like, yeah, I've heard voices and stuff in the house, but it's you never know because you don't know if someone's like walking by, if someone's yelling from outside. You don't really know. But
Right.
yeah, never had the banging that I can remember. It's always it's so strange, and that's why I love the phenomenon so much, because you never know exactly what's going to happen, and that to me is the absolute beautiful aspect of chasing this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
there are
it's bad.
people. Oh, there are people who are like lightning rods to it as well, without even realizing it. So perhaps maybe that's kind of the situation that you're in here. Is you're one of these conduits that they're attracted to, and uh,
Either
that's
me or Meg, man. I don't know.
that's that's why you experienced more activity at the uh uh what the I can't even
The
remember what they're called.
the
Yeah,
Airbnb.
the Airbnb.
I got
That's why
you.
you yeah, you experienced the brunt of that. So it could just be because, for whatever reason, whatever is on that other side thinks you're cute or something.
I guess, bro. Wants to give me a kiss or something. I don't know. If
Yeah.
that is the case, then it's I don't know. It would be a bit of a blessing and a curse because it's like I love exploring this topic as a whole, and it fulfills something within me. But at the same time, it's also pretty spooky to deal with stuff that you can't really explain, even after you've tried to debunk things, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely weird if that did so happen to be the case. But I'm not fully convinced yet. But I mean, it's possible for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Just kind of pay attention to it, and when those things are happening again, kind of make note of what the surroundings are like, or uh,
Absolutely. That's a fantastic idea. Honestly,
yeah,
something I hadn't really thought about before. Like
yeah,
I'm very much aware of like conduits and people being more or less able to attract such things or something about them, makes certain things occur or have a higher likelihood of occurring. But I didn't necessarily take into account that I could be one of those people.
cool.
But hey, I've got a cool looking diary I haven't used, so maybe that's what I'll utilize it for.
There you go. So guys, this was fun. We usually cut things off at an hour, but the experiences you guys were talking about, I kind of got lost in listening to those stories. So
No,
um, I,
sorry to have taken over, brother.
oh no, it's okay,
Oh,
man. That's talking ghost stories is one of that's I just sit here like it's a campfire, and you wouldn't well, maybe you would be shocked at how many people have like reached out to me and said that they like what we do because the guests have the open forum. Like so many people have told us that they stop listening to podcasts because hosts interject too much or try to make it about them. So this is kind of what we do. We kind of always want the people who are taking the time to talk to us to be able to talk. So don't feel bad at all. I love listening to that stuff. I thought it was super interesting. And I'm sure anybody listening also did as well. Um, you might not really need any extra followers or anything, but we always end the show with plugs and stuff. Letting anybody know where they can find your stuff. Bob, I'm pretty sure a couple of months ago you told me you had a book coming out. We never even got to talk about that.
yeah, I kind of forgot that I put a book out. Cody's put two out. He's kind of put me to shame.
Nah.
Yeah, so we have a book out now called Tales from the Dark: True Crime Black Widows. It's available on Amazon. It's a deep dive into the Black Widow phenomenon. You don't often think about women serial killers, but they do exist, and it's a very very fun read. I'll have another book coming out I'm hoping around this summer. I haven't actually started writing it yet, so I can't really say around the summer. Yeah, we also have the Tales from the Dark YouTube channel. That's something I'm gonna actually just as we about an hour or so before we started shooting this, I put a new episode out. First episode of 2025 was Helltown. Then Cody and I have our new podcast that's starting at the end of January here. We have a huge guest coming on with Alan Greenfield, going to kick the show off in a very strange and spooky way. That'll be
Definitely.
available on every major podcast platform. You name it, you'll find it. It's called the Ghost and Me podcast, and that's it for me. And Cody's got got to put us all to shame here with his plug.
Oh man. Again, I don't think anyone can plug my content quite like you can, brother. Or I would even argue some other podcasters that I've worked with in the past. I never quite know how to approach the marketing aspect, but I really appreciate that. But B, I'm very excited to get the podcast going. Yes, I do have 2 books. I sell them on my merch store, and you can also find them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, most online platforms, but it's called Stories from the Archives. And it's kind of like what I do on my channel. It's each book has 10, it's basically 10 deep dives into paranormal cases and hauntings and that sort of a thing. And I've been told that people think they're pretty scary. So if you're into that, definitely check those out. But if you buy them directly from me, I do sign them for you. But yeah, basically, head on over to YouTube and you can check out my docuseries style content. It's just youtube.com/at mystery archives. And I will definitely be linking the podcast there as well. You can find my merch store, anything and everything. I'm on most platforms, but YouTube's definitely my biggest one. And with that, I just want to say that it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you guys. Like I said, I don't have a ton of experience doing podcasts. at least not yet. And you know, as a host or a guest. So I really appreciate you guys having me on, and it's been an awesome, chill and comfortable experience. And I'm looking forward to helping share your guys' pod out there with my audience, and vice versa.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we appreciate
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
For sure, man. For sure. Hey, we got to have that synergy, bro.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on, especially short notice. Everybody, check out the links. We're big fans of these guys. So, with that, I'll go ahead and hit the famous outro, and
It's loud. Cover your ears.
this one might not be as loud. This is a new one, but yeah, we will see you guys with some more SasqWatchers. It's definitely something we're looking to get back into now that the film that I've been working on is pretty much done. I'm trying to get back to weekly recordings and lives and stuff. So keep your eyes peeled. We're not always going to talk about movies anymore. We're getting back into paranormal. We're taking it back, and we will see you guys later. Or not.
The preceding program has been brought to you by the Watchers Podcast Network. If you enjoyed the show, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends to help grow our network. Check us out on all social media platforms, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, thanks for your support.